There's a moment in every person's life where everything changes, and it doesn't happen because of some external event or because they suddenly got lucky with something. It happens because they made one decision, one single decision, that quietly but completely flipped their entire world upside down. For Marcus, that moment came on an ordinary Tuesday morning, the day he finally stopped caring what others think. And what happened next is something nobody could have possibly expected. Marcus was completely stuck in life, still living with his parents and working a job that he absolutely hated with every fiber of his being. Every single day felt exactly the same, like he was trapped in some kind of endless loop, where he'd wake up, immediately grab his phone and scroll through Instagram for an hour, watching everyone else around him winning and achieving things, while he felt smaller and smaller with each post he saw. Then he'd drag himself to a job that completely drained his soul, come back home exhausted and defeated, and the whole cycle would just repeat itself over and over again. He once had dreams, really big, ambitious dreams about his future. He desperately wanted to start a business and build something that was truly his own, something he could be proud of. But every single time he even thought about taking that first step, he'd hear all these voices in his head holding him back. His mum telling him he needed a stable job and not to be stupid with his life. His friends asking him why he was trying so hard when he should just chill and enjoy life like everyone else. His co-workers laughing and saying that entrepreneurship was only for lucky people and that he definitely wasn't built for that kind of thing. And here's the absolute worst part about all of this: he actually believed them. He completely let their opinions become his reality, let their fears become his limitations, and let their doubts become the prison that trapped him. Until that one Tuesday morning, when something inside him just completely snapped. He woke up, walked over to the mirror, looked at his reflection, and honestly didn't even recognize the person who was staring back at him anymore. He was living like someone who had already given up on life, already accepting a mediocre existence, already letting other people's voices control every single decision he made. And right there in that moment, standing in front of that mirror, he finally made a choice. He was done living like this. Now here's where the story gets really interesting, because what Marcus did next wasn't some big dramatic announcement or anything like that. It was actually quiet and private, but it turned out to be incredibly powerful. He didn't make any announcements to anyone about what he was planning to do. He just quietly started taking action. That exact same Tuesday, he sat down at his old laptop and wrote out a plan for himself, and it wasn't some perfect detailed business strategy with spreadsheets and projections. It was just a simple, honest plan that he knew he could actually follow through on. Step 1 was to learn a high-income skill that would actually be valuable in the marketplace. Step 2 was to build something real with that skill, something that could generate actual income. And Step 3 was the most important: never stop working on it until it actually works and produces results. His mom walked into his room that evening while he was deep in research and asked him what he was doing, telling him that dinner was ready. He looked up from his screen and told her he was working on something important and would eat later. She frowned at him with that worried look parents get and said he was always on that computer, asking when he was going to get serious about his actual future. The old Marcus, the one from just yesterday morning, would have immediately felt guilty and closed his laptop to go eat dinner and make his mum happy. But the new Marcus just smiled calmly and said something that surprised even himself. He told her that he was being serious, more serious about his future than he had ever been in his entire life. The very next day at his soul-crushing job, one of his co-workers casually asked if he wanted to go grab drinks after their shift ended, like they usually did. Marcus declined and said he couldn't because he had important stuff he needed to work on. His co-worker laughed and asked what kind of stuff he could possibly have to do, jokingly asking if he had gotten a girlfriend or something. Marcus just shook his head and explained he was working on a personal project. His co-worker kept laughing and pointed out that Marcus was already working a full-time job, so when would he even have any time for side projects? Marcus just shrugged and said simply that he makes the time because it matters to him. And that became his new way of living. While all his friends were out partying and posting stories on social media, he was sitting at home learning new skills and studying successful people. While his coworkers were binge-watching the latest Netflix shows and complaining about their lives, he was actively building something and making progress every single day. While absolutely everyone around him was choosing comfort and the easy path, he was deliberately choosing discomfort and challenge because he had a specific purpose now, because he had finally realized something profound that most people go their entire lives without understanding. Other people's opinions about your life are really just background noise, and noise can never build your future for you. About 3 months into this new journey, the people around Marcus started noticing that something was definitely different about him, and to be completely honest, they really didn't like what they were seeing. His friends gradually stopped inviting him to hang out and started making comments behind his back about how Marcus apparently thinks he's too good for them now. His family members started making passive-aggressive comments about how he was becoming obsessed with this whole thing and that it wasn't healthy behavior for someone his age. His co-workers would gather in little groups and whisper about him when they thought he couldn't hear, saying things like he actually thinks he's going to become some big-shot entrepreneur and that they should just wait because he'll definitely fail and come crawling back to reality soon enough. And you know what Marcus's response was to all of this negativity and doubt? Absolutely nothing at all. He didn't waste his energy trying to defend himself or his choices to anyone. He didn't get into pointless arguments trying to make them understand. He didn't desperately try to prove anything to these people who clearly didn't believe in him. He just kept his head down and kept working on building his future, day after day after day, because he had come to understand something really powerful about human psychology. When you finally stop living your life for other people's approval and validation, it makes them incredibly uncomfortable with themselves. They unconsciously try to pull you back down to their level of mediocrity, and it's not actually because they hate you or want you to fail. It's because watching your growth and transformation reminds them painfully of their own stagnation and all the dreams they gave up on. One night, his best friend from childhood called him up out of the blue, and there was this tension in his voice when he said they never see Marcus anymore and asked what was really going on with him. Marcus took a moment to really think about his answer before responding. Then he said something that he knew would probably change their friendship forever, but it needed to be said. He explained that he was in the process of building something meaningful with his life, and he simply couldn't do that if he kept living the exact same way he used to live. He told his friend that he loved him and valued their history together, but he genuinely couldn't be that old version of himself anymore, and he was sorry if that was disappointing to hear. There was this long, heavy silence on the other end of the phone line that seemed to stretch on forever. Then, without saying another word, his best friend just hung up on him. And yeah, it hurt. Of course it hurt deeply, losing someone who had been there for years. But Marcus understood in that moment that real growth and transformation requires genuine sacrifice, and sometimes the biggest sacrifice you have to make is giving up other people's comfort with who you used to be, even if those people matter to you. 6 months into his journey, something happened that literally nobody in his life expected, and honestly Marcus himself could barely believe it was actually real when it first happened. His very first client came through and paid him $2,000 for work he had completed, $2,000 actual dollars for a skill that he had only been learning and developing for 6 months. That was more money than he would make in several weeks at his soul-crushing day job that he hated. He just sat there staring at the payment confirmation on his computer screen for what felt like forever, and his hands were literally shaking as reality set in. But it wasn't actually shaking because of the money itself. Even though that was significant, it was shaking because this was undeniable proof of something much bigger. It was proof that he had been absolutely right to bet everything on himself instead of listening to the doubters. It was proof that consistent discipline and hard work beats waiting around for approval from people who don't believe in you. It was proof that the voice inside his own head telling him he could do this was so much louder and more important than all those negative voices that surrounded him. He didn't make some big celebratory post about it on social media trying to show off to everyone. He didn't go around bragging to all the people who had doubted him. He just quietly smiled to himself and kept going, kept working, kept building. And you know what happened? More clients started coming to him, and then even more after that. Within just a few months of getting that first client, he was consistently making more money from his own work than he was making at his regular job. And not long after that milestone, he finally walked into his boss's office and quit that job for good. His boss actually tried pretty hard to convince him to stay, telling him that he was making a huge mistake and that he had a real future with the company if he just stayed patient. Marcus just smiled at him calmly and said something simple but powerful. He said that he definitely had a future ahead of him, it just wasn't going to be at that company anymore. When he told his mum that he had quit his stable job to pursue this full-time, she actually cried because she was so scared for him and his future. He gave her a long, tight hug and told her that he understood why she was scared, because she loved him and wanted him to be safe. But then he explained to her that he wasn't scared anymore about his own future, and that was what truly mattered now. He had finally found the courage to believe in himself. And those friends who had abandoned him and talked behind his back when he started this journey, well, some of them actually did reach out to him when they saw he was succeeding, sending messages like, "Yo Marcus, congrats on everything, man. We should definitely catch up sometime soon." He was polite and cordial in his responses to them, but he didn't go running back to those relationships, because he had learned a really valuable lesson through all of this. The people who leave you and give up on you when you're in the difficult building phase don't deserve to be celebrated with you when you finally reach the winning phase. Today, right now as we speak, Marcus runs a genuinely successful business that he built completely from scratch with his own two hands. He has the freedom to work from literally anywhere in the world that he wants to be, whether that's a coffee shop down the street or a beach on the other side of the planet. He's in the absolute best physical shape that he's ever been in during his entire life, because he finally has the time and energy to take care of himself properly. He's surrounded by people who genuinely inspire him to be better every single day, rather than people who drain his energy and pull him down. And whenever people ask him what the real turning point was in his life, what was that one thing that changed everything for him, he always gives them the exact same answer without hesitation. It was the day he finally stopped caring about what other people think of his choices and his life. But let me explain what he really means when he says that, because it's important to understand the nuance here. He didn't suddenly stop caring about people as human beings or stop having empathy and compassion for others. What he stopped doing was letting their fears and their limitations control and dictate his own decisions and his own path forward in life. He stopped living his precious life for their comfort and their sense of security. He stopped making himself smaller and dimming his own light just to make them feel better about themselves and their own choices. Because here's the honest truth that most people don't want to accept: the vast majority of people in your life will never truly support your biggest dreams and ambitions, and it's not because they're fundamentally bad people who want you to suffer. It's because your dreams and your courage to pursue them genuinely scares them on a deep psychological level. Your dreams remind them painfully of everything they're not doing with their own lives, everything they're too afraid to even attempt, all the potential they're wasting by playing it safe. So if you're reading this right now and you feel completely stuck in your life, trapped in a situation that doesn't serve you, I want you to ask yourself one simple but profound question. Am I actually living my own authentic life based on my own values and dreams, or am I living someone else's version of what they think my life should look like for their comfort? Because I promise you this, the exact moment that you genuinely choose yourself and your own path over their opinions and their expectations, absolutely everything in your life begins to change in ways you can't even imagine yet. It definitely won't be easy, and I'm not going to lie to you about that. People will resist your growth and your transformation. Some people will leave your life entirely, and that will hurt. But here's what I know for certain: the ones who truly matter and who genuinely love you will find a way to stay and support you through it all. And even more importantly than that, you'll finally start becoming the person you were always meant to be deep down inside. So please, stop waiting around for permission from people who are never going to give it to you. Stop waiting for approval from people who don't even approve of their own lives. The day you stop caring what others think about your choices is the day your real authentic life